Hello, I am Deb Coviello, the Drop-In CEO, and I am grateful you've joined us for another show where week after week I bring on amazing guests. And this week we have two guests that I'm honored to have on the show. And we do this because we want to provide the resources to help those C-suite leaders, up and coming leaders have the skills that they need so they can navigate their challenges and opportunities with confidence. And with that, I am pleased to introduce both of our guests this week. Jill Stuber, who is the Vice President and co-founder of Catalyst LLC and has over 25 years of food safety and quality experience in food manufacturing. As an ICF certified coach with a BS and MS in food science and an MS in quality management, she engages with organizations that believe in developing individuals and teams to increase confidence and clarity and build community so they can achieve the success they deserve as technical leaders in food. And also Tia Glave, who is also president and co-founder of Catalyst LLC with over a decade of experience in large and small food companies, and being a master certified coach and a chemical engineer. Oh, so smart. She uses systems, data, and proven methodologies to develop and implement a food safety and quality strategy, all while using servant leadership principles. Jill, Tia, it is my honor to welcome you onto the show.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thank you,
having us.
Deb.
So I'm excited. I have known these fine ladies for so long. We have crossed paths multiple times in the quality and food safety industry. I've had multiple people say, "Do you know Jill? Do you know Tia?" And we've been talking for a while, and I said, "Gosh darn it, I got to get these ladies onto the show because we share a passion in the area of quality and, even more importantly, food safety to protect the supply chain. And foundational to all of that, leadership is at the core. And so we're going to vibe off of each other. We're going to have this great conversation, but I would love to give Jill the floor first, just to share about herself a little bit with our audience. Jill?
Sure. No, I'm happy to be here. Thanks, Deb. Finding leadership was a journey for me. I had grown up on a farm and knew I'd be in agriculture, but I never knew I was going to be in food until I needed to take an elective as an undergrad and found my way into food science, which really kind of catapulted me into the food industry, especially the food safety side. And as I kind of went through the early part of my career and finished grad school, I'd started work at a company. And as I had been promoted, I quickly recognized two things. One was that my technical expertise alone was not going to be the winning, the winning recipe for success on its own. And the other one was that the company I was working with, while it was a fantastic company, the leadership philosophy that they had been leading by didn't fit me. And I needed to find something that felt much better, more authentic, and really honored my perspective of like, how do we set people up for success versus kind of the old traditional style of leadership. And that really sent me on this journey of being a better leader. And I found coaching. And that really resonated because it's all about recognizing people's gifts and talents and helping them be their best self. Because when we're our best selves, then we can contribute the most we can as well. And so this journey has been fantastic. And I'm so delighted to be here to share that with you and your audience today.
Thank you, Jill. And I am busting at the seams to respond to some of these questions, but I would also love for Tia to share a bit about herself with the audience.
Yes, thank you. Excited to be here today. And so I stumbled my way into food. You read that my background is in engineering. I got a chemical engineering degree, and for a minute, I thought I was going to go to medical school. But ultimately, I hired in with a food organization because I thought, let me just use my degree for a little bit. If I hate it, then I will go to medical school. Over a decade later, I'm loving it here. And for me, leadership almost came naturally. I've always loved working with people and helping to develop people and build their capabilities. And so I gravitated to that early on in my career. But what I noticed as I continue to grow and work with different organizations is that honing in on those skills and making them better over time, right? As you get harder challenges, as you work with different type of people that might not be on the same wavelengths around how you should develop people, what type of culture you want. I realized that those skills were important for developing others and building capabilities in others. And one thing that I was super interested in and still am is how does organizations incorporate even the food safety and quality strategy into their overall business plan? And one thing when I met Jill, she helped me put together, just through our talks, she helped me put together that building a strategy I knew was a skill, but leadership skills and having the ability to connect with people, build relationships, really hone in on those influence skills, safe spaces is core to helping influence strategy, and to incorporate those concepts that I was helping organizations do. And so I always say that the work that we do at Catalyst around leadership development and culture, is the best part of the job I would be doing if I still work deep into industry, because my passions has always lied there.
So if I could just respond to that, I'm going to come back to some of Jill's opening comments. I was an engineer and I was pursuing that path. And then I realized, I don't want to go to medical school. That's a long trip there. And it's funny how both you and I said, medical school is a second choice here in favor of just getting out and starting to make an impact. So that so resonates with me. Um, and what I also like, what you say is that, again, as technical leaders, we are celebrated, we work on our craft, and then we get to this place where we're not the smartest person around. So, like, what skills do we have? Where's that support system? And some of us just don't have that, for which I think that's what you guys do. But, Jill, just, oh my God, you're singing to my heart, shining a light on people's gifts. That's exactly in line with my brand. I recently put out a new entity, Media 3L. Well, what does the 3L mean? Lift, light, lead. Shine a light on people's gifts.
Yeah.
You'll go farther with that than trying to work on your weaknesses. So I love both of your backstories here.
Thank you. Yes.
So, how did you guys get together? Talk to me about that, because you guys are a force to be dealt with, and I want more people to understand how did Catalyst LLC become.
Yeah, we were really lucky. We met online.
We did.
It's like the online dating success story with us. During COVID, I had stepped away from working at other businesses and really focused on coaching. And along that way, Tia had been working at a company where they posted an open position. So I reached out and said, hey, I have this onboarding course to help develop leaders. As you hire somebody in, would that be helpful? And we started talking and we had this connection. And Tia, sometimes on LinkedIn, right? We all talk about there's times you connect with people and then you feel like you're ghosted.
Mhm.
Never had that happen. Tia, like we kept connecting back and forth. And we kept talking about someday we're going to do something together because our ideas just bubbled up. And then one day, here we are.
Yes. And one thing that stood out to me as I talked with Jill, I was working in a position where I was the only food safety and quality resource. We were working through COVID, so we know how busy that was. This organization's had basically three legs of the organization: co-manufacturing, e-commerce, and then restaurants. And as you know, the impact was great during COVID. Plus, we were launching new products into CPG. So I was, by the time that Jill and I really started talking, I was burnt out, overworked. I needed a break. And so the conversations that I was having with Jill around, I mean, she mentioned it earlier, just being a coach and really leaning into your gifts and leaning into who you are authentically and taking care of yourself right? Like all those things resonated with me. And I realized in order to be a better leader, right, I needed to focus on those things. But I talked about my passion earlier on helping others, right? Helping others develop. And so it just fell in line that we wanted to help people in the industry, bring out these gifts and really live their true selves, even in a chaotic world like the food industry.
Mhm. And I'm going to add to that because one of the things that we found out later about ourselves is we both like to win, which really kind of set us up to be good business partners because we want others to win. Like we
Yes,
win when others are winning.
yes,
And so that really has been kind of a driver for us of like, how do we really how do we help people be more successful so that businesses also are more successful or other areas of their life? And along the way, while we didn't even realize we had created this, we inherently brought this incredible, even diverse perspectives to our business to share with others. Tia and I have completely different backgrounds. We grew up in different areas of the country. We have different degrees. We started at different types of companies. We're in different generations. We look different, but yet we have so many things in common. And we hadn't even planned that, but as we've been in business a few years, we recognize the gift that's been for us to create more like holistic and, I don't know, inviting and inclusive programs for the people that we serve.
yes.
And I appreciate that because consultants, coaches can have a certain persona, a certain view of what they look like, and we come in all packages. Now, mind you, I've been mistaken for just being a coach, but it's one of those things that because all three of us have deep industry knowledge, yes, we have our technical crafts for which we've gotten burnt out. We've served, we've
Yes.
won,
All right.
but we clearly see that foundational to all of that and the entire demographic that I serve, whether it's a CEO or somebody up and coming, that food safety professional is, we may have missed the mark along the way. So we're in a purposeful pursuit of trying to provide the leadership and those food safety professionals, quality professionals with those missing essential skills. And it's just so fundamental. I just don't understand why businesses don't help with that. But I am so glad that we are here. And it's a beautiful thing when we do see people succeed. So um, I'm going to just move here a little bit because I want for anybody, mind you, my audience, I have a lot of people out of the flavor food fragrance industry because that's where I've come from. So I really want your messaging and your conversation to really connect with them. So when we think about, your ideal customer who is out there that has leveraged your services and insight or should be leveraging your insight and services, who are the best people that you want to connect with and have a conversation about this work?
Yeah, great question. So I want to start by saying we have all types of people reach out to us. And typically the reasons are different depending on where they are in the organization. And so I would start with our ideal client, right? Our ideal client is proactive and they're looking at their culture and really wanting to develop a strategy and long-term planning around their leadership and development, their learning and development. And so those clients that come in that are proactive in looking at culture as a whole, it's typically a leader within a function. So that could be food safety and quality. We have also worked with R&D. We've worked across, sanitation and engineering. So it could be a leader, a senior leader within the organization, partnered with their HR learning and development teams. We find great success there because of the owners of leadership and development within HR. They're able to connect the broader strategy around culture, learning and development and leadership to hit future goals, right? Future KPIs around their people, their talent management. But
Yeah.
we also have middle managers coming our way. And the middle managers that come our way and have found success in our programs are one that's trying to help their teams, right? Trying to help their teams be more successful at driving and enabling their teams and their peers to push culture forward, drive culture forward. Or those middle managers are burnt out. because we see that middle managers, they are in this unique spot. We call it the middle manager squeeze. They're in this unique spot where their top leadership is, bringing down these directives and visions of what they want the organization to be and what they want people to work on in the organization. And then they also have their teams, right? And the people that are supporting the facilities that's telling them, no, we don't want to do that. It's always been done this way. Why do we have to go down this path, right? So they're expected to be in this spot of leadership and execution and motivator, right? Inspired. But unfortunately, if you look at the development for middle managers in organizations, and this is across all industries, they get the least amount of support around leadership development. And so they struggle, right? They struggle there. They find that they're not successful. What they're doing is not working. And so they work more hours. That leads to burnout and being overworked, stress, sad, unhappy at their job. And then they're looking for something else. So that leads to retention, engagement issue, and therefore culture issues. And so those middle managers are trying to figure out a solution for themselves as leaders and their teams. And then we're helping them push forward through our strategies and our leadership development programs. Jill, would you add anything? Have anything to add?
No, I think you've covered a lot of it. And, I think a big part of what we see is this evolution. And Mercer has a report they put out a couple of years ago, which really captures how employee needs are changing. And we still have many senior leaders who are part of, these, I'm going to say kind of the older generation.
Mm-hmm.
And the way we led before was, and I was one of them, right? Like it was more control and command, and like, I'm happy to have a check. I show up for work and I go home, but I'll work as much as I need to because this is just about, this is all about my job. And like, we see this in generations that have come through now. We've taught the next generations, like, you don't just work to live, right? There is more to life than just work. And so as they're coming through and saying, gosh, what about my whole being? What about my well-being? What about my mental health? What about opportunities to be curious? What if I don't want a linear path for promotion, that I want to kind of swim and learn more and be exposed to other things? And I only want to spend a few months here and then a few months there. That really throws this other set of leaders off. And so what we've noticed is that, like, as that has been happening, how have we shifted even how we talk about leadership and development, and really tap into people to say, what is it that I need in this moment?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really, I think, part of what kind of drives when we think about who we're working with are some of the people who have recognized that this shift has happened and we can work through it together.
Yes.
Versus there's some that go, oh no, this new generation, we don't know what to do with them. Right? They're maybe on a different path right now and not quite ready, but really it's about how do we support this new workforce coming in? And as Tia said, this middle group that's been here and is kind of figuring that out too.
Yeah. Yes.
I'd love to respond to this because yes, and what you have shared, I also then, well, I really care about that middle manager squeeze. And that's why, again, a lot of these podcasts, my book, and other resources are meant to support them until they get into the C-suite. But my messaging along this line, again, CEOs, presidents, founders out there, if you're listening, it's not just about the work and it's not just about growing that business and yeah, finding the right talent and supporting them. But there's also a little bit about, as we said earlier, shining a light on people's talents and leaving your legacy. And by doing so, by caring about those middle managers that are doing the best they can to support you and to support the frontline workers, recognize that we need to take care of them.
Yes.
And yeah, there's results, but if you want sustainable results, working on that culture and their leadership capability for influence is so key to leaving your legacy for you, for the company, and for the people you serve. So again, C-suite leaders, I'm talking to you as well. Think about investing in your team wherever they need and wherever they're at.
Yes, absolutely. We always say that there is no problem that cannot be solved with better leadership, right? Like better leadership helps us solve problems and advance business forward. And so as you even think about, I love it when you talk to our senior leaders and you talk about their legacy, right? What legacy do you want to leave behind? And how do you get there? Really empowering other people, right? Giving them the skills they need to be successful, and leading towards a legacy that you want to leave behind. If we've talked to many people that are on this path of, okay, I'm retiring in a few years, right? I know I need to help train someone to take my position, and I really don't know what path to go in. We really break down, what are your values, right? What are your values? How do you want that to show up within your legacy? And then how do you make sure that people around you are equipped, right, with the right skills so they can carry that forward? And many of those things fall within leadership. It's at that
Yeah,
point, it's not the technical piece, right? Your team is typically strong from a technical standpoint, or
right.
where to get it, right? You know where to get the training from, or have resources, but it's those people skills, right? Those human skills, that we seem to lack, especially as we move up in the organization. That's what we lack, and that's what, as senior leaders, they focus on from a legacy standpoint, right? On how do I get someone in this space that can help lead and influence.
So I have a couple questions because this is where the rubber hits the road right now. First question will be around, so who have you helped and where were they at and where did they wind up? And I've already forgotten the second question, but let's go there next, because if you're out there, if somebody's out there that's starting to feel a little uncomfortable about being able to manage it all, or you're a leader and you're not sure the culture or the leadership capability is lockstep, I'd love for you to share with me an example of a client you have served, whether it's individual or the full organization. What was the situation when they showed up at your doorstep? What were their challenges? And then what was the treatment you gave them and the impact of the that you did together?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'll start with, we had a leader, a middle manager, who was actually moving roles. And they actually had enough self-awareness to say, while I was successful in this past role, I know when I start in this new company, I want to have more success. I want to be a better leader in this role. And so they started working with us and going through our boot camp program, which is kind of the foundational pieces. I call it kind of the framework of what leadership is, but we really use our coaching to really have people think about where they are and reflect on what they've done and where they want to be. And it really positioned this person to come in and think about their responsibility of setting people up for success versus leading with their technical knowledge. And it was fantastic to see them come into this space and really think about the people around them more than just their checklist. They're doing fantastic. And of course, once you start on this journey, you see that, gosh, how do I bring other people on the journey with me? And so we were really fortunate that this person said, now my team needs to come through boot camp as well, because of how insightful it is, right? It's about whole being, well-being. So whether or not you have direct reports, these principles are even about self-leading. So this person then brought their team in to start working. And of course, as they're working within the organization, they're using some of these skills as well and building different relationships and influencing differently and creating safer spaces. Well, of course, that only uncovers more things that need work. And so then there was the whole team that they said, how do we work better together? And so we started facilitating team coaching so that we could think about what are the things that get in the way for us to really say, like, whatever it is that we need, like, that's not working, that's a bad idea, let's do this, let's whatever, to really have a safe space. So these senior directors in this company could lead the organization as they needed to in the moments that they needed to,
Right, yeah.
versus worrying about status management.
Right, yes.
And of course, it's been great to see this person kind of grow through the organization and grow the team and allow us to help even further within the organization. They actually moved and took a global role. And so now, once again, they have this perspective of how do I bring people in, and even challenging themselves to say, how do I, once again, lead this function, but through people? And
Mhm.
so now we're in a space where we're even helping at the next level with culture across their global divisions to say, how is this going to come together? And it's
Hmm.
some of the initial stages, and things don't always move fast when we talk about culture and even leadership, right? It's practice over time. But one thing about building leaders is it's not something that is just like magic, and tomorrow we're going to have something better because we went to a workshop today.
Right. Yeah.
He and I really focus on how do we really combat the forgetting curve and help people practice these concepts and be introspective to see what's working and not working and how people respond to you so that you can build more awareness so that you can be more effective. And
Yes.
so it's been really fun to kind of navigate this is one client, similar to many others, but how it weaves through these different areas with them and grows with them as well.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just love to respond. I know, Tia, you want to jump over this, but it's one of those things is that it's not a one and done.
No,
It's
no.
hey, I've trained you. I remember I had some challenges as a middle leader getting squeezed, and they highlighted it, and I did my training, but there was no support system, never at my one-on-ones or my periodic reviews. Hey, how's that going? Let's talk about that situation. What was the behavior? What did you try? What was the response? None of that. And
Right.
again, they're so focused on, bottom line, top line, and the transactions. But I always talk about focus on human development and coach those new skills so they stick so that you get the ROI far more than just that result that day, that quarter. Tia, you wanted to jump in here?
Yeah, I think that's fantastic, Deb. Exactly what you're talking about. There's something like we spend what, like 2 billion, I can't remember the number on training a year. But most of it is not realized because we're doing exactly that. We're doing this one step awareness training where
Mm.
it's like, yeah, we know these things, right? But you must practice, then reflect, right? Try again, get feedback. And it's the reason why we structured our courses and really all of our programs that way, so that you can go through this process so that they will stick and become skills and then eventually competencies, right, for yourself and for your team. And that's just so important because of that forgetting curve, right? And we
Mhm.
are busy, right? We're busy. There's a lot going on. We're trying to store a lot in our brains. So we have to go through this process of practice, reflection, right? Pivoting, shifting based on what we're seeing and who we're working with so that it can stick and become a habit and a part of who we are as leaders.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things go ahead, yeah.
What's that? I'm gonna just add that
Mm.
I think I'll even just talk about myself coming into leadership. It was kind of the next level of like, well, of course, I'll just kind of do things at the next level, whatever that is. Part of what I realized through my journey was leadership was much more intentional,
Mm-hmm.
that it was something that I needed to do. If I was going to serve my team well, I needed to be intentional every day about how I was showing up,
Yeah.
how I was checking in with them, how I was supporting them, and how I was even representing our team within the organization for us to really flourish and be more effective collectively. And that's one of the things that I love, even the story that I shared, is seeing this person really kind of step into this space and be more effective because they are being more intentional in how they're bringing people in and really empowering those around them to be part of the process, part of the business, part of the decision making. And it just fills my heart.
Yeah, that's a key word, intentional.
Mhm.
I was just going to say the word intentional is extremely powerful because technical leaders learn a skill, check the box, move on, rinse and repeat. Intentionality is bringing your whole heart, your whole mind, and let time slow down a little bit. It's not about the speed at which we do things, it's about human connection and being very and it's multifaceted, but intentionality, if you don't really understand, well, I think one should ask themselves a question. Like you said, when you show up with a team, show up at a meeting, What's the outcome you want to achieve? What are your intentions? What is the long-term effect versus simply the transaction at hand or the result that you needed a report or we needed to come up with an action item? Intention is, I'm hearing you. Yeah, we're battling this out a little bit. That's not possible. Being present for that team is far more important than, okay, we got all of our agenda items done. That
Oh,
will come when you invest in humans a little bit more.
yeah, and we're not just saying it, right? Data shows that if you
Mhm.
invest in your team, if they feel great coming to work, if they feel like they have the tools, the skills to interact with their team and get work done, like data shows that organizations are double profitable, right? That they see 4 times the amount of wins around their goals and KPIs. This is data that's out there and continues to be updated each year, that the more we invest in our people, the closer we get to our goals and our KPIs and our bottom lines and ROI and all of those things, right? Like we have to invest in our people.
So we've touched on a lot of attributes that leadership needs, but if we could distill it down maybe into one where from your work, time and time again, you always see this. And this is like the number one thing that you need to work on to help leaders. Because again, if you've seen it, it's probably impacting my audience as well. So what say you?
Mm. This is always a hard question of like what's the number one. I would say probably mindset,
Ooh,
right? And I'm
go.
looking at Jill, which is
That's what I
my
was going to say too, but I'll pick a different one.
yeah, so we can have two. That's the benefit of having two of us, right? We can technically, so mindset, right? Which I think we both agree that that is extremely important because that's what's either preventing you from moving forward, right? That's causing some barriers of can I shift to think about, we talked about new generation coming in, right? Can I shift my mindset enough to include new people coming into the
Yeah.
organization, to shift to say, maybe the way I built relationships or the way I got work done might not be the best for this other person that's coming into the organization, or might not be the best for everyone on my team. So, how do I shift my mindset to ensure that I am taking into account each person, that I'm leaning into each person, that I'm being intentional about the way that I show up for each person? And that sounds almost daunting as a leader. I'm like, man, I have 20 people on my team. How am I going to connect with each one of them? Well, leadership is hard, right? We signed up for this. Like we want to do this role. And so it is our job to figure out how do we do that so that we can empower and enable people. And that first shift is mindset, right? From, I can't connect with all of the people that report into me, to how am I going to connect to each person that reports into me as the first step, right? It's that shift in mindset that can be so powerful. And it's the reason why we start there. In
Love
every
it.
program that we do and everything that we do, we start with mindset. Jill,
Love
I'm
it.
curious about yours.
Gosh, we'll see as you're talking, and then I'm running through a few in my mind about like what would be great. I think we always hear about great leaders, they say have great self-awareness. And I think that's one of the foundations when we think about operating with emotional intelligence, EQ. If we want to have compassion, if we want to create safe spaces, we first have to develop our own self-awareness. And I often like to distinguish self-awareness is different than self-knowledge.
Mhm.
And often we confuse I think I see people confuse those. So they'll go, gosh, I'm an introvert. Oh, I have self-knowledge. Self-awareness comes from, as an introvert, how do I show up in group spaces? And what do I do in those spaces? How am I interacting with people and how do they respond to me? What is it that I need so that I can show up as the best leader, knowing that I have the knowledge of this I have the knowledge, I have this characteristic.
Mhm.
And so I think that's one of the spaces that I love seeing people have these aha moments as they come through our program, where they're like, wow, I was running our meetings like this because it felt good and like we brought good energy. And then when we start talking about self-awareness and they start understanding what they see, but then that opens their eyes to others, they start seeing like, gosh, maybe that's not what others all love. That doesn't mean safe space for them to use their voice and be really a part of this community for our team. So I'm going to go with self-awareness.
And what I really love, and that's why you, all three of us, are here today. And going back to an earlier thing, just chit-chatting back and forth and bubbling things up. You never know what might happen here. Jill, Tia, and Deb, who knows? Because there's just, gosh darn, there's so many people out there that need to be served. And I too came to that self-awareness, my book, The CEO's Compass. I actually talked to the leader who's reading it and say, it's got to start with you. And your mindset, your old playbook's not working. You need to be willing to examine yourself and how you've led before, not throw everything away, but what now in the new landscape is no longer working for you. Very powerful. I am also seeing or just got through a coaching program. And for me, totally self-aware. I know where I'm going. I've got my vision, my purpose, etc. But even I had something to learn about myself to further propel myself forward. So everybody at some point, every person, every team needs an outside perspective and guidance at some point in their career. Why not? Jill and Tia, amazing conversation. I love the energy, but I would love to give you, both of you, Jill and Tia, the floor one last time to share a message with our community before we bring it to a close. So, Jill?
Yeah. Well, to kind of go along the lines, one of the messages we love to bring people is like, be the catalyst. And yes, it's a play on our company name, but we are serious about you don't have to wait for permission. You don't have to wait for somebody to say it's okay to move into a new space. If you're waiting for your manager to approve something or you're waiting for something else to happen, like stop waiting. Like the world needs your gifts. They need you to be here. So jump in and really like let your light shine because I'll play off the 3 L's, right? We need everybody here to be fully engaged in the way that feels right for them so that we can all be lifted together.
Jill, Tia?
Yes, I'll just add to that. Like we know we have a lot of work to do in industry when it comes to culture, right? And it's important for us to stay that path, but focus on people, right? Focus on people and helping them gain the skills and the knowledge it takes to lead and drive culture. As we have conversations around specifically food safety culture, so many organizations and people lean on the technical side, but the word culture is a part of it. Culture means people. And if we forget that people have to carry out our processes, that people are the ones that are making decisions, that people, right, decide to skip step 1 or skip step 3, right? The process can be amazing, right? The technical knowledge can be amazing, but it's people that's making decisions. So if you do not have people as a part of your strategy when it comes to culture, food safety culture, you're missing a huge piece. And so we hope today, right, help you think a little bit differently around how you can invest in your people so that you can drive business forward because it's so important. We've seen it.
So I am so grateful for both you, Jill, you, Tia, for dropping in on the podcast. I encourage my listeners to reach out to both of them at Catalyst LLC. All of that information will be in the show notes. And I just want to wish you both well and continue success.
Well, thank you so much for having us, Deb.
Yes, we've enjoyed it.